Everything EPA Region 4 has done into 2012 at the CTS toxic disaster site has been influenced by the alleged criminal activity going back to 1999. The missing administrative record, which was pulled by David Dorian in the summer of 2007, provided enough evidence to support the allegations of fraud and criminal activities. Before the notebook was pulled, it was photographed from cover to cover by Mr. Duran using a digital camera. Duran made those photographs on June 16, 2007, as questions began to be asked by Rebecca Bowe of the Mountain Express into the handling of the CTS site. David Dorian, who was on-scene emergency coordinator, admitted that he took the notebook in the summer of 2007, just as the Mountain Express was releasing its toxic threat fail-safe edition into the handling of the CTS site. And the files that were contained in that notebook serve as the evidence that the community believes proves the wrongdoing and fraud perpetrated by EPA Region 4 officials and NC-DENR officials. It was all done to protect their dirty secret, faking a CERCLA Site 101. Remember the documents pulled by EPA Region 4. The pulled documents include the August 16, 1999 letter from Pat DeRosa of NC-DENR to Doug Lair of EPA Region 4 Emergency Response and Removal Branch requesting an emergency investigation into a toxic groundwater situation caused by CTS of Asheville. The second paragraph alone mentions CTS 7 times, including giving EPA its own CERCLA identification, NCD 003149556. EPA was reminded of a previous investigation that it had conducted in 1990. The report was finalized from the FIT screening site investigation on February 22, 1991. It even mentions the mysterious NIFRAP based on the evidence at hand, which showed that the CTS site was migrating contaminant on the east side and the west side of the site. And that was in 1990. EPA is notified that a previous study in 1987 revealed that TCE was found at 53,000 parts per billion in a previous soil sample. EPA was even given the approximate distance from CTS of Asheville site to the contaminant that had migrated into the Rice property and their drinking springs, and to the Robinson property and the contaminant in their groundwater well. NC-DENR had linked the contamination found at the Rices and Robinsons to the CTS of Asheville CERCLA site, a pre-existing Superfund site. If that wasn't enough, page 2 talks about the Division of Water Quality and NC-DENR sampling on July 9th and July 12th respectively. These were the samples taken in the ditch and in the drinking water springs for the Rices. 15,000 parts per billion TCE, 21,000 parts per billion TCE in their drinking water supply, 7,000 times the limit. Petroleum constituents are also noted. The sheen was detected, sampled, and identified as linked to CTS of Asheville. The next paragraph deals with the July 28th sampling of the 9 wells, with the Robinsons being the only one detected as being hot. 270 parts per billion TCE before the filter, 170 parts per billion TCE after the filter. Notice the third page. NC-DENR says we are currently reviewing the CTS of Asheville site in light of this new information with regard to reopening that site for further investigation under CERCLA. NC-DENR knew it was CTS of Asheville causing the problem, the toxic disaster. And who from EPA would receive the 3-page letter plus the 43-page attachment? None other than Don Rigger, U.S. EPA, and Jennifer Wendell, U.S. EPA. They knew all along that CTS of Asheville was responsible for the contamination on the Rices and Robinsons. The first page of attachments was the map from the 1990 investigation that had EPA trespassing on the Rice property. That was the FIT SSI Phase 2. Second page of attachments was the cover of the FIT SSI 1990 investigation. This report was in the notebook. It was missing 165 pages. More on that in the next video. Another map was on page 4 of the attachments. It showed the relationship to CTS and the contamination at the Rice property, including an elevation profile showing CTS being up gradient from the contaminated ditches and springs. Page 6, the first chain of custody by Chu Chi and Max Hainer for the 9th of July, 1999. It shows that the sample was taken at 11 a.m. It shows that CTS, Mills Gap Road, Asheville, was the location and site. This was the ditches that were sampled at the Rice property, contaminated by CTS, Mills Gap Road, Asheville, North Carolina. If this wasn't enough for Wendell, Rigger, and Lair, how about the facts from Chu Chi to Charlotte Jesnick? Chu Chi notified Charlotte Jesnick, head of Inactive Hazardous Sites Branch for NC-DENR, that the Robinson property was 1,200 feet down gradient from the CTS of Asheville site. Chu Chi noted there were 2 small children living there and that Kay DeCamp was going to have to talk to the homeowners and give them the bad news after talking to the state toxicologist. And what did Rigger and Stroud do? Rigger was the project manager. Stroud was the first on-scene coordinator for EPA Region 4. What did they do when they were presented with overwhelming evidence that linked CTS of Asheville to the contamination? They faked a hazardous incident to create a fake CERCLA site, to obtain $200,000 in emergency CERCLA funding to respond to the pre-existing CERCLA site known as CTS of Asheville. Don Rigger and Fred Stroud submitted a U.S. Coast Guard National Response Center hazardous incident report, claiming that an incident had occurred on August 21st at 12 noon, 1999. The incident was reported on August 23rd at 10:40 a.m. to Civilian Ready of the U.S. Coast Guard. To us, this is fraud. Rigger and Stroud were claiming that the incident type was an unknown sheen and the incident cause was unknown, and that the incident occurred at 12 noon on August 21st, 1999. Rigger and Stroud were claiming that this had occurred at 275 Mills Gap Road, Terry Rice's property, and that the suspected responsible party was unknown. The organization, unknown. Diener's August 16, 1999 letter, all 46 pages with attachments, refutes these claims. It was linked to CTS of Asheville. Rigger and Stroud even gave the weather from the 21st of August, 1999, and they knew it was false. And why did they do it? Why did they send in a fake incident to the U.S. Coast Guard National Response Center? They did it to create a fake CERCLA site, to get an ID, SFN 0406988. They did it to create a CERCLA site to obtain $200,000 in CERCLA funding to respond to a toxic disaster emanating from a pre-existing Superfund site known as the CTS of Asheville site, NCD 003149556. That's why they did it. They didn't want anybody to know that CTS had been given a NIFRAP in 91, that it had been removed from the surplus inventory in 95, and that CTS of Asheville was now being turned into a $30 million subdivision called Southside Village. This was Fred Stroud's Special Pollution Report, August 23, 1999. This was about generating that $200,000 from that Special Pollution Report, using a fake CERCLA, using a fake incident to generate the fake CERCLA, to respond to the CTS of Asheville site. And here Stroud's talking about a removal site evaluation was performed on August 20th, 1999. Isn't that interesting? How could there be an incident on the 21st when they're responding to a removal site evaluation on the 20th of August? Stroud was stating that the site posed a threat to human health and the environment, and he even referenced in the background the letter from Pat DeRosa that was 3 pages on August 16, 1999, with a 43-page attachment that linked CTS to the very contamination that he created a fake incident for on August 21st, 99, that was reported on July 8th, 1999, 44 days earlier. The threat was serious enough to reference the National Contingency Plan, Section 300.415, for contaminated drinking water. This whole time, Don Rigger, Jennifer Wendell, Doug Lair, and Fred Stroud knew that CTS of Asheville was responsible, as did NC Diener. And yet, what did they do in response to this? They violated the Rices' 14th Amendment rights. They created a CERCLA site on their property without ever notifying the Rices. They never notified them that their property was being the sacrificial lamb and that their health had been sacrificed for all these years to cover up the fact that EPA Region 4 officials had made a mistake in the handling of a pre-existing Superfund site known as the CTS of Asheville site. Fred Stroud's Special Pollution Report from the 23rd of August 99 said it would do 2 things with the $200,000. First, get interim bottled water to the Rices and Robinson, followed by a permanent solution of city water hookups. Remember Rigger's explanation for creating the Mills Gap Road groundwater contamination site? Didn't Rigger say he took the name off the water procurement form to deliver the Rices water from their address listed on that water procurement form? Isn't it sad that EPA Region 4 has made that their official stance, their official position on this matter? The reality is they created a fake CERCLA site using a fake incident to generate the SFN 0406988 number. They got the $200,000 under false pretenses. They got the $200,000 under false pretenses to respond to a pre-existing site known as the CTS of Asheville site, NCD 003149556. That's what they were doing, as we allege. Why would EPA do that to the Rices? What would motivate EPA? Why would EPA fake an incident? Why would EPA want to fake a CERCLA site? Why would EPA get $200,000 under false pretenses? View EPA Fake CERCLA Part 3 for all the answers. And you'll know why the henhouse has been turned over to the foxes. What's left? A Superfund site that's never been cleaned, still posing a threat. View EPA Fake CERCLA Part 3.